For decades, if you were sitting in an izakaya in Tokyo and asked someone, who's the number one threat to world peace, the answer was almost automatic.
Yeah, predictable. You'd get North Korea.
Exactly. You'd picture the same images they did. The grainy TV footage of a missile test over the Sea of Japan, the drills, the low-level anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It was just there.
Always the rogue state just across the water.
Right.
That was the clear, established villain in the narrative. A simple, unambiguous fear.
Right. North Korea was the known quantity, the threat Japan built its modern defense posture against.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw this poll recently, and it just completely tears that script apart.
Okay.
When Japanese residents were asked to list the countries they see as a potential threat to world peace, North Korea wasn't number one.
Wow.
Not number two, not even number three.
So who was it?
A different country surged past it, jumped nearly 11 percentage points in just 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And that country, well, it's their single most important ally, the United States.
That is, yeah. The ultimate paradox of the protectorate, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. The U.S.-Japan alliance, it's the cornerstone of stability in the Indo-Pacific, supposedly. And yet, for a significant chunk of the Japanese public, and a growing one, the guarantor of security is now seen as a primary source of global instability. It's it's more than just politics. It's an existential crisis of trust.
Okay, so let's unpack this. It's our mission here, right?
Yeah.
To investigate this unprecedented shift.
Absolutely.
We need to figure out the why. Why is this key security ally suddenly viewed as a major source of instability?
We need to dig into the data, the polling itself.
Right, and the geopolitical drivers, the economic stuff too, especially those tariffs.
The tariffs were huge, yeah.
And the whole structural dependency of the alliance, that's key. Plus, how Japan's own media landscape kind of amplifies this new narrative.
Exactly. We have to go beyond the headlines, look at the anxieties underneath that have redefined Japan's relationship with Washington, really.
So where do we start? The numbers.
I think we have to start with the numbers. The quantitative leap is just staggering.
Agreed. That jump is almost hard to believe. So this survey, conducted July-August 2025, it found the U.S. was named as a threat to world peace by 17.5% of Japanese residents.
17.5%. And compare that to North Korea.
Yeah, North Korea came in way lower at 12.1%. I mean, think about decades focusing on Pyongyang and then Washington surges past.
And that 17.5%, like you said, it didn't just happen. It's a massive year-over-year jump.
Almost 11 percentage points. 10.9 points to be exact, in just 12 months.
That's not noise. That's a seismic shift in the national psychology. It really is.
In the overall threat ranking, it makes the picture even clearer. Where does Japan see danger coming from now?
Okay, so who's top?
Russia came first, 34.3%. Makes sense given recent events. China second, 24.3%. Also understandable. And then in that shocking third place, bumping North Korea down, the U.S.
Wow. It's a profound realignment of regional fears, isn't it? It says so much about the current global situation.
So what's driving it? Is it just general U.S. policy?
Yeah.
Or something more specific?
Well, if you dig into the why, it seems highly personalized. This view of the U.S. as destabilizing, it's overwhelmingly tied to the current U.S. president. The survey found nearly 8 out of 10 Japanese respondents, that's 79.4%, just staggering view the U.S. president as having a negative impact on the world.
8 out of 10, wow. And positive.
Only 17.7% saw the impact as positive. I mean, that level of negative consensus about your primary ally's leader, it's extraordinary. And it must shape every decision Tokyo makes.
And what's fascinating, or maybe worrying, is how quickly this abstract data, these poll numbers, translates into very real personal fear. It's not just policy wonks.
Not at all. You have to look at the human cost, the anxiety, and it reveals this generational shift in how security even feels.
Like the example of Mrs. Sato.
Exactly. Think about someone like her, a grandmother near Sendai, lived her whole life under the U.S. nuclear umbrella, that protective shadow. For decades, her main threat, the clear one, was North Korea. Simple fear, external enemy.
And I read something interesting about that. When she sees a North Korean missile test now, she's actually relatively calm.
Yeah, because she trusts the defense systems are there, the U.S. support is there, the alliance will hold against that threat.
Yeah.
But when she sees the American president on TV pulling out of treaties, questioning alliances, that's what triggers genuine, visceral fear.
So her fear has completely shifted. It's not fear of an attack by the U.S. It's absurd, obviously.
Of course not. It's the fear of abandonment. Or maybe worse, the fear of chaos, instability, caused by the protector itself.
The source of security becomes the source of unpredictability.
Precisely. American reliability, the bedrock of post-war security, is now seen as unreliable, unpredictable.
And that fear isn't just strategic, it's painfully economic too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look at the micro level. Tanaka-san, the shop owner near the Yokosuka Naval Base.
Right. His livelihood depends on the base, on the American sailors and families spending money there. For decades.
And his main worry has completely flipped in the last year or so. He used to worry about the base staying, the noise, the traffic, the usual base town complaint.
Minor stuff, relatively speaking.
Yeah. But now, with all the America First talk, he worries the president will just make the base leave overnight with an executive order.
That's paralyzing. For him, the president's negative global impact isn't some abstract political thing from the news.
No, it's a direct economic risk. The foundation of his business could just vanish. It shows the real human cost tied to the stability or instability of the alliance.
Which brings us squarely to the economic friction. That seems like the immediate painful driver here.
It absolutely is. The targeted trade wars specifically.
Yeah, April 2025, the announcement about reciprocal tariffs. That's when the abstract worry became a concrete threat, right?
That's exactly when the shock hit Tokyo. The U.S. proposed these incredibly punitive rates, 34% on China, 20% on the EU, and a massive 24% on Japan.
24% on a key ally that shares defense burdens.
It was seen as hostile, not a negotiation tactic.
And even the deal they finally struck in July 2025. Okay, it wasn't 24%, but it was still a huge deterioration. A flat 15% U.S. tariff on Japanese exports.
And you have to grasp the scale of that jump. For decades, the rate was, 2.5%, basically negligible?
Yeah, part of the post-war deal, security for market access.
Right, so going from 2.5% to 15% overnight, that signals the end of that compact, that 12.5-point increase. It's a fundamental breakdown of trust, economically speaking.
And the targets were clearly chosen to inflict maximum pain. Cars and auto parts.
The heart of the Japanese export economy. Roughly 21.5% of Japan's total exports. This wasn't minor stuff.
And the potential damage, given Japan's already slow growth.
It was severe. Japan's annual real GDP growth is tiny, like 0.5%. Yeah. The estimate was these tariffs could cut total GDP by 0.7 to 0.8%.
Which guarantees a recession.
Exactly. So from Japan's perspective, the U.S. seemed willing to inflict serious economic damage on its key ally just to achieve domestic political goals.
And the way they negotiated. You mentioned analysts calling it gangster diplomacy.
That term fits, unfortunately. It wasn't about finding a win-win. It felt like exploiting Japan's security dependency.
Using leverage.
Veiled threats, basically. Comply. Or maybe tariffs go higher. Or worse, maybe the security alliance itself gets questioned. Weaponizing economic asymmetry.
And the proof of that coercion, maybe, is the lack of transparency afterwards.
That's key evidence. When the U.S. made deals with the U.K. or EU, you got detailed joint documents.
Right.
With the Japan deal, nothing. No jointly issued public documentation.
Just silence or conflicting stories.
Well, ambiguity was strategic for the U.S. side. It let officials in Washington claim these huge unilateral wins, like the $550 billion investment pledge from Japan.
Which Japanese officials seemed very hesitant to confirm.
They couldn't or wouldn't publicly back it up, especially the part U.S. officials were pushing.
The 90% profit allocation?
Yeah, claiming 90% of profits from the supposed investment would go to U.S. stakeholders. Japanese officials basically said, look, that's legally impossible. The government can't just dictate private sector investment decisions like that.
So Japan accepted these vague terms. Why? Just to make it stop.
It seems they saw ambiguity as the least bad option, a defensive concession. Pushing back harder might have meant even higher tariffs or worse rhetoric about the alliance.
So they chose compliance over conflict, acknowledging the handcuffs of being a security protectorate.
Tacitly, yes.
Okay, so if the economics were so damaging to a partner, what was the U.S. rationale? The ideology behind it. It has to be more than just tariffs.
Oh, definitely. It's tied to this deep ideological campaign against globalism, prioritizing America first.
Bringing manufacturing back, reviving the white working class.
That's the stated goal. Allies like Japan become, well, collateral damage in a domestic political and ideological fight. It's not really about Japan per se.
And this connects to that sort of neoconservative economic ethic, right? The hardworking workers support the nation idea.
Absolutely. The philosophy seems to be that corporations focusing only on shareholder value neglected social duties like domestic jobs.
Which excluded people from the benefits of globalization, the IT shift.
Right. And so this administration sees tariffs as the necessary tool, painful maybe, but necessary to fix that. force the rebuilding of domestic manufacturing, even if consumers pay more.
And we also have to factor in the internal politics within the administration. Yeah, policy isn't made in a vacuum.
No, it's bargaining between different factions, and there seems to have been a shift
From the regime change, folks.
to what some analysts call the resource prioritization faction.
Okay, what's the difference?
The resource prioritization view is less about overthrowing governments and more about pure economic and military competition. Blocking China's rise to hegemony in Asia is the main goal.
Regardless of China's regime type.
Exactly. And allies like Japan, they're viewed primarily as resources to be leveraged in that competition, not necessarily partners to be respected in their own right.
And crucially, how does this stuff get implemented so fast? That's part of the unpredictability, isn't it?
Executive orders, which ties directly to the rise of the unitary executive theory.
Explain that a bit. It sounds significant.
It is, and it terrifies Tokyo. It's this idea, pushed by some conservative Republicans, that the president is the sole unitary representative of the people. All executive power rests with the president. Their personal will becomes paramount.
So, wait. If the president's will is everything, what happens to checks and balances? Congress, bureaucracy.
That's the point. They're minimized. The stability Japan relies on congressional oversight, bureaucratic process, long-standing policy consensus, it sort of evaporates.
So simple ideas like blanket tariffs or pulling out of treaties
Can be implemented incredibly fast by executive order. No need for lengthy debate or agency sign-off. That centralization of power directly creates the unpredictability that alarms Japan. One person can overturn decades of agreement instantly.
which forces Japan back into that strategic dilemma. The alliance structure itself becomes the problem, reinforcing the economic friction.
It's a painful, inescapable paradox. The trade fights force Japan to confront its structural subordination, its status as a security protectorate, as Brzezinski put it.
Codified in treaties like the Mutual Defense Assistance Agreement. It's not just a feeling, it's legal.
Exactly. Which is why Japan can't just walk away when tariffs hit. Their trade policy, their ability to resist economic coercion, is fundamentally constrained by security dependency.
Pushing back too hard risks everything.
It risks triggering those deep, latent security anxieties. They rely completely on the U.S. nuclear umbrella and security guarantees against China, against North Korea. They can't afford to jeopardize that.
Even though they contribute massively to the costs. That 75% figure for U.S. basing costs.
It's extraordinary, nearly 3 times what Germany pays. For comparison, they're paying a huge premium for a service whose reliability is now openly questioned.
And the polls show the questioning isn't just academic. Trust is plummeting.
The numbers are stark. That June poll showing only 22% trust in the U.S., lowest since 2000, a 25-year low.
And the really scary one, the Asahi Shimbun poll. 77% of Japanese respondents don't believe the U.S. would actually defend Japan in a crisis.
Think about that. 3/4 of the population believes their main security partner will abandon them. That's a national security emergency right there.
And we saw real diplomatic fallout, didn't we? Canceling the 2+2 meeting.
That was highly unusual. The annual meeting of foreign and defense ministers, canceling it in June, was widely seen as a direct public reaction to U.S. demands for more defense spending and the trade pressure.
And Japanese officials were unusually blunt in their criticism, for Tokyo's normally reserved style.
Yeah, calling the tariff notification letter very disrespectful to an ally. That was a prominent LDP official. The message was clear. We feel blindsided, mistreated, disrespected.
So faced with this unreliable partner, what's Japan doing? They have to react somehow.
They've adopted a comprehensive dual strategy. Track 1 is accommodation.
Keep the relationship going where possible. Manage it.
Right. Prime Minister Ishiba met the U.S. president early, trying to stabilize the optics. They're continuing with plans to upgrade U.S. forces Japan, modernize command structures, improve coordination, showing commitment.
But track 2?
Track 2 is proactive diversification. And arguably, this is the more strategically significant part.
Building other partnerships, hedging their bets.
Exactly. Strengthening ties globally to stabilize things and fill the gaps left by decreased U.S. reliability, strategically filling those gaps.
And this is happening on multiple levels, right? Minilateral stuff.
Yeah, staying active in the Quad with Australia and India, trilateral meetings with South Korea, the Philippines, managing regional security.
And deepening direct bilateral ties outside the U.S. framework.
Yes. New security deals, reciprocal access agreements, RAAs with countries like the Philippines and Australia.
Explain the RAA again. Why is that such a big deal for Japan right now?
An RAA is crucial because it smooths the way for temporary military deployments between countries, joint exercises, training, disaster relief. It streamlines the logistics and legal stuff enormously.
So it lets Japan cooperate with partners independently of the U.S.
Precisely. It allows them to project power, cooperate regionally, much more flexibly. It builds a more robust defense structure that isn't solely reliant on U.S. involvement or bases.
And the defense industry cooperation.
Yeah.
Also moving beyond the U.S.
That's a huge shift. Historic, really. Co-developing that 6th-gen stealth fighter, the GCAP project, with the UK and Italy.
Not the U.S.
Not the U.S. And that massive warship deal with Australia Mitsubishi Heavy Industries building ships for the Royal Australian Navy. That's a $6.5 billion deal.
It signals they're serious about becoming a security provider, not just a consumer.
Exactly, taking on a more active role.
And their global engagement is broadening way beyond Asia, too, Europe.
Definitely. Closer ties with European allies, stepping up defense industry cooperation with NATO. They had their first economic 2+2 with the UK, starting defense industry talks with the EU.
And economically pushing into new markets.
Yeah.
Africa, Vietnam.
Yeah, Prime Minister Ishiba was in Vietnam, signing deals on semiconductors, energy diversifying supply chains away from China, and pushing Japanese companies into Africa via TICAD.
Let's quickly define TICAD and AZEC. They seem important for Japan's leadership image.
Right. TICAD, Tokyo International Conference on African Development, is Japan's big push for economic engagement in Africa. Investment growth, diversifying Japan's footprint.
In AZEC.
Asia Zero Emissions Community, that's Japan positioning itself to lead regional decarbonization. Energy security, clean tech transfer, leading, not just following Western models. Both are about building dependable partnerships not aligned solely with the U.S.
Okay, but what about China? How do they fit into this diversification?
Well, that's necessarily cautious. High-level talks have resumed, yes. But Tokyo is still deeply concerned about China's military buildup, their aggression in the East China Sea.
So the goal with China isn't closeness.
No, the goal is stability, reduce tensions, but not seek a fundamentally closer relationship that would compromise core security interests. It's a very delicate balancing act. Distance from Beijing while compensating for instability from Washington. That defines their current efforts.
Okay, so this dual strategy, accommodate the U.S., diversify elsewhere, it's critical.
Yeah.
But it needs domestic support, right?
Well,
which brings us back to Japan's information ecosystem.
exactly. That media landscape is a key piece of the puzzle. It helps explain that overwhelming, unified negative view of the U.S. leader we talked about.
So the trust hierarchy. Most Japanese get news online daily, 46.5%.
But, and this is the crucial bit, trust in the internet is rock bottom. Only 47.4 points on whatever scale they used, and declining.
So they use it, but they don't trust it.
Whereas traditional outlets, still dominant in credibility. NHK, the public broadcaster, highest trust at 66.8 points. Newspapers right behind at 66.2.
Even though newspaper subscriptions are way down, from nearly 90% in 2008 to just over 50% now.
Yeah, the physical paper is declining, but the credibility of those legacy institutions, still the main yardstick for measuring political reality in Japan.
Which creates that wall of credibility you mentioned, makes it hard for other views to get through.
Think about that anecdote again. Kaito, the university student trying to talk to his salaryman dad.
Dad's reading the Asahi Shimbun. Got NHK on.
Shaking his head about American instability. Why? Because, as he says, NHK and the paper both agree. It's confirmed.
And when Kaido tries to show him something different from the internet, maybe a different angle, international source.
Dad just dismisses it. That's just the internet, not real news. I trust the paper.
And that shows exactly how that 80% negative view of the U.S. leader gets formed and reinforced, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The narrative is set by these highly trusted traditional sources, which often have their own framing. Alternative views just struggle for air because the internet, despite being widely used, is inherently distrusted.
And we know these trusted sources have reported biases themselves. NHK domestic.
Rated right-center biased story selection tends to favor Japanese nationalism. High factual reporting, but criticized for favoring the prior government. And yeah, reported somewhat negatively on the U.S. president.
But then NHK World Japan, the overseas service?
That's rated left-center biased. Story selection leans a bit left internationally, and they have a generally unfavorable view of the U.S. president.
So regardless of the internal flavor, the overall effect from the trusted ecosystem is critical of the American leader.
It seems so. It reinforces that public perception of U.S. instability.
Which shapes the debate about what Japan should do now. Experts are proposing some detailed strategies.
Yeah, very forward-looking ideas to manage this unpredictable situation. One area is purely economic, domestic.
Stakeholders over shareholders.
Exactly. Learn from the U.S. experience where worker exclusion arguably fueled the America First backlash.
So shift corporate culture. Focus on local procurement, employees, communities, not just profit.
Build a more resilient domestic economy, less vulnerable to external shocks. That's the idea.
Another proposal. Change how Japan negotiates with the U.S.
Yeah, stop the individual disadvantageous talks. Challenge U.S. protectionism in multilateral forums, G7, G20, WTO. Use global consensus.
And crucially, pair that with action against China.
Right. Simultaneously push for international restrictions on non-democratic countries like China regarding unfair subsidies, export dumping. That way, Japan looks like it's fighting for fair global trade, not just fighting the U.S.
There was even a more radical tariff idea proposed.
Yeah, turning tariffs into a tool for promoting democracy, a global concept.
High tariffs on non-democratic nations.
With reductions tied explicitly to demonstrating rule of law, human rights, movement towards democracy.
That's bold. It reframes tariffs completely, away from pure protectionism towards enforcing liberal values.
It could potentially align with U.S. goals of punishing certain actors, but pivots the purpose towards upholding a rules-based order.
And finally, the idea of seeing this as an opportunity.
Right. Don't just react defensively to U.S. distancing. See it as a strategic chance to accelerate regional leadership.
Speed up things like AZEC, the Asia Zero Emissions Community.
Exactly. Establish a robust economic and diplomatic presence across diverse regional partners. Cement Japan's role as the indispensable anchor in the region.
And on security, the hard choices.
Tokyo has to proactively define its strategy now, especially regarding Taiwan. Show concrete contributions to deter a contingency.
Because the old model is ending.
The era of enjoying U.S. security guarantees while also maximizing Chinese economic benefits, that's rapidly, maybe irrevocably coming to an end. Japan has to choose.
So we started with the paradox of the protector.
And we end with this unavoidable reality. The U.S.-Japan alliance is, well, it's two things at once, isn't it?
Thriving militarily. Deep coordination, joint exercises, modernizing command structures.
But simultaneously facing profound, maybe existential uncertainty, rooted in trade coercion, political unpredictability from Washington.
Japan's structurally stuck, in a way. Security dependency forces accommodation.
Yet they're also aggressively pursuing strategic autonomy, building partnerships across the Indo-Pacific, Europe, preparing for a world where American reliability isn't guaranteed.
This shift in threat perception from North Korea to the U.S., it feels historic.
It really is. Maybe the deepest threat facing Tokyo now isn't the visible menace of a missile test, which they've planned for forever, but the psychological unmooring. An entire nation realizing the foundation of its 7-decade security strategy, that assumption of an eternally dependable American partner, has just evaporated.
Leaving Japan to contemplate, really for the first time since World War II.
The actual possibility of a post-American world. What does that look like? And what is Japan's role in it? That's the profound question they're grappling with.